I'm also so proud of the whole Circle series, of this insane support that I'm getting from my community, of this amazing realistic can that I've just drawn. It's all so surreal, and I'm so proud and so happy to be doing this every day.
Welcome to the Flying Fruit Bowl, a platform dedicated to the discussion and exploration of art and the creative process. This is the second part of a two-part interview with Ryan Dean Haas. If you haven't heard the first part, please go back to the last episode, as this continues where the last one left off. Ryan also recently collaborated with the alcohol brand Jack Daniels to create images that highlight their new range of drinks. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Ryan, and I really hope you enjoy it too. Yeah, I agree with that. I think art's way more powerful than people give it credit for.
Or even TV shows or movies. Like, we've all been in a bad place and be like, well, I'm gonna watch my TV show that puts me back into my comfort zone and that makes me laugh, and that's just silly, but I'm gonna watch that now. That's art too.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, that's true. And I think that's really interesting. That's a really interesting way to look at things. It kind of just makes me think about the complexities of human nature. That sounds way deeper than it actually is, but that makes me think about that. It makes me think about, okay, let's not go over something about a lot of different things. But my existential crisis, that's what it is. That's perfect.
Do you want to talk about it?
It's a daily occurrence, so no, it's fine.
So what helps you when you feel down? Do you turn to music or shows or art or photography or podcast?
So that's a really good question, and I think I guess doing this is part of it. I guess when I really think about it, that's such a deep question. I'm like, damn, this is like a therapy session now all of a sudden. So I guess doing this or communicate with people, because my goal this year, I was like, I'm going to set a goal this year to be more sociable, because I like not talking to people. Like, I'm very good at just like, sitting at home, drinking tea, eating biscuits, just getting on with my own thing, doing not much. So I was like, I need to really do something that's going to be more social. And it just so happened that the first person I interviewed, Anne Symes, which you probably already heard, she just asked me to do an audio interview rather than a written interview. So obviously I did that. I had no idea how to use Zoom, no idea what I was doing. That's why that's a complete mess. And then I really enjoyed it, and I was like, you know what, actually, this is quite fun. Like, let's do this. So then now I'm doing it, and it's fun. And I've met some really great people.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's also really cool that you say you turn to this. I have now officially hijacked your podcast. Now I'm
absolutely.
Perfect. I hope you will keep this in, because I have great questions. So
yeah, I will do. Absolutely.
So it's super interesting that you say it makes you feel better, because you turn to not something someone else has created, but you create yourself, and that makes you feel better. That's an interesting take, because I asked you, do you turn to music, or like listening to music? Are you looking at art? You're like, no, I want to create, and then I feel better. That's
oh yeah, cool. Absolutely. So obviously I do photography.
Oh yeah, you do.
But since like the pandemic, and not even just since the pandemic, I think photography is that kind of thing where I really love it, and I'm going to get back into it, but it's very much on the back burner, like very much on the back burner. And I've kind of realized recently, like, photography is very cathartic. Like, it's like, that's kind of definitely what I turn to when, not that I feel unhappy, but, like, just when I've got something to, like, the first thing I do when I create an image is I kind of ask myself how I feel, and then create something based off that. And my images are very much tied up with myself anyway, because they're like quote unquote personal work. So normally it'll be photography. That's what I would turn to. But I haven't done that for a while now. And then I started making music, because my brother makes music, and he gave that book to me. So I create music that nobody ever hears other than the introduction to the interviews.
Oh, you created that?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
And the reason I did create it is because, okay, so I feel bad. This is going to be about me, and it's like, damn it, I should have said no.
Too late.
So
this is my podcast
now. Perfect. Take it, please. Take it. So going back slightly. So when I did photography, I still do it. I still do shoot stuff. I just haven't. So I've got stuff from like 2016 that no one's seen. I just haven't posted it because I'm just. That's we can talk about that off air. That's a whole different conversation. Um, at some point. But long story short, I created some speed edit videos. And I originally had like commercial music from like Purple Planet or whatever. And I didn't like it. I was like, this doesn't really fit what I'm trying to like, just the mood of the image, for instance. I was like, my brother makes music, and then he showed me how to make some stuff randomly, or he gave me the software to do it. I was like, I might as well mess around with this and make my own music for speed edits, so that at least, you know, when I upload it, I don't have to worry about any kind of music. I can make it myself. And I did that. It was fun. It was cool. And then because of that, when I created this podcast, I was like, oh, I should make the music myself because I'll do it myself. And it's like I edit the podcast myself and I'll do the music myself. And it's like the podcast has pretty much replaced the photography I did in a way. So the hours and it's something that I actually worry about a lot because it's like I put a lot of time into doing this. Like you wouldn't like just the website itself is a second job.
I know, right?
Plus a podcast on top of it is, to be honest, it is pretty much a second job, and I love it, and I have no qualms about doing it because I love it. But I'm also really conscious
that you just said that it makes you feel better when you're down. So it's so cool
absolutely
that you can work so much on something and it still makes you feel better. I mean, most.
But I'm also very aware. Yeah, but I'm also very aware there'll be a time where I won't do it because I'll be doing photography again, or I'll be doing something else.
You said that creating it makes you feel better, but what's the part? Can you say what the part is that makes you feel better? Is it just that you're creating something, as you said?
It gives me some kind of purpose.
Or is it socializing?
It gives me a purpose. I think really what I've learned, I pass it through my years, like I'm that old, but like what I've learned is that everybody needs a purpose to wake up. We all need a reason to wake up. And I think you need to find that reason to wake up. And it's different for everybody. Some people it's just money. Some people it's socializing. Some people it's, you know, partying, you know. But I think for me, it's creating something. I have to be creating something because even if I could literally just, you know, if I was rich and I could just not have to work, I wouldn't even necessarily be online. I'll probably just be somewhere reading all the time and creating something. That's all I want to do is create something.
Yeah.
You know, and I think most artists are like that, really. Like you create something not because you want a financial benefit from it. Sure, of course you do. That's going to help you create more. But it's because you have a desire to create stuff.
See, I'm super glad I asked that question because that was a great answer.
Thank you very much. I feel like, so this is how people feel when I ask them questions.
Yeah, you did an awesome job.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your question. I really appreciate that. People don't ask that questions that often, so I really appreciate it. Because I'm always like, nobody needs to know about me. It's cool.
Yeah, you know I told you I'm very honest and blunt, and I do my thing, and I might hijack your podcast. I warned you, and I did.
But one thing I really like about you though is that you're very open, and I really like that. Like you messaged me like straight away, and it was like a really good, like you're really good at communicating. If that makes sense.
Well, I am.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because obviously we're talking now, and it's because obviously you messaged me because you saw a story and you liked it, and you're like, oh, you know, and then we had a good conversation, and like that's really interesting because, and it's funny. I'm not like that normally with people. Yeah, okay, of course, there's quite a few people I've met online through Instagram and stuff, but not the way that you and I message in terms of like we're messaging today for the interview. Like I don't do that normally. Normally with people, I won't hear from them until maybe an hour before the interview, or like the day before when I message them to ask them if they're still up for it, and they're like, no. So you know. So I like that, and I appreciate that a lot. Like I appreciate that. I appreciate your openness. I like that a lot. I think that's really cool.
Thank you. If you want to, you can join my group, my community of misfits.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. Where do I sign up? Absolutely. I certainly will. Like I don't know, like, and actually that's something I want to talk about. Actually, the idea of personality and art, and we'll talk about it in a minute because I've got so many more questions to ask.
Right, go.
So okay, so. One thing that I actually get from your work, which is actually super interesting, is the idea of play. Like your work is about playing. Your work is about playing with stuff and kind of just experimenting and being more, you know, just do what you like and the worry about kind of where it fits after. And I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious about your future. And I don't know if you want to talk about it and or if it's something you really even know what you're doing. But I'm super curious about where you see yourself going and or how important is it for you to think about the future of your work?
Well, I see myself in a big mansion with a pool, pretty ladies. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea. As I told you, I live in the moment, and I'd rather not know what the future holds for me, or where the road goes, where the road ends. I don't really want to know that. I'm so perfectly happy where I am right now. I don't even need more followers or more success. I'm just so happy just being able to follow my dreams. I don't need to be there. I don't need to be at that goal of reaching that dream. I'm just happy to enjoy the way, just the journey. The journey is the goal somehow. And I love being here. I love that I had the chance to team up with Jack Daniels. I love that I can help people with my circles. And that's all I need right now. It's just I'm not rich. I don't have a lot of money, but I have enough to pay the bills and to keep creating, and that's really all I need. And if my future looks like this in 5 years, that I can just pay the bills and keep creating, that's really all I need. That's the perfect future for me.
So, what is your idea of success, and what does it mean to be a successful artist?
Well, I guess I already am, because as I just told you, I teamed up with Jack Daniels. I make people feel better with my work. That alone is being super successful. It's not about numbers, likes, followers. It's not about social media success or anything. Or it's just, I guess, everyone can define success for themselves.
Yeah.
And right here, what I'm doing right now, where I am right now, also being asked questions about myself right here in this podcast, it means that I'm successful in my own way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, yeah, I think you're super fascinating because you're in this really interesting space. Like, because, you know, you're not, you're not, how can I explain it without trying to sound really cliched? But like, you're not like this artist who's been slaving away for like 30 years trying to get, you know, really good work seen by people. And it's like, you're a fairly, contemporary artist, a young contemporary artist who, has had, as you said, a good success relatively quickly, like in a way, I guess. Like, but does that not concern you in some way? Um, I don't know how to ask this question really without sounding slightly negative, and I don't mean it in any negative way. But like, does it not concern you that maybe like where do you go from here? It's really kind of what I'm saying. It's like, or is that not something you care
Where I
about?
go from here,
Yeah.
I have no idea, and that's the fun part. If I knew, I wouldn't go there. I would take another path that I wouldn't know where to go to.
That's great. That's great. You know what, I can imagine you're going to have such a great long career. I can just imagine that because
I
your
mean,
your
that's the
spirit.
saying, right? Like, take the path less traveled by. That's what I
Yeah.
do, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm already not mainstream. I don't do what others tell me to do. I just really do what I think is right and what makes me happy. And right now, I am really happy.
So that's great. You know what? That's really good to hear. And genuinely, I'm really happy for you. Like, I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
Um, and I think it's great. It's great to see. It's great to see somebody actually do something they want to do and being happy with the outcome and not having to sacrifice part of themselves for it. I think that's great to see because I think being an artist, you have to sacrifice to be an artist. I think
Yeah,
mostly.
and to be honest, like struggling, like sometimes of course I struggle with money too, or with other things like editing or posting. But I think the struggle is part of what makes me want to pursue this. Like, the more challenging it gets, the more I want to do it.
Yeah, like it's cool because it's not like you're, a trust fund kid who's just bored with their time and just wants to create stuff because you can, and people are following it because you have the money to back it up. It's you're doing it because you want to do it, and it may work out, and you're well aware it may not work out, but that's not going to stop you from doing it. And I think that's super commendable. I
Yeah,
think you should really, I think you should really lecture and do talks. I really think you'll be a very good motivational speaker. I really do.
I thought about that, or even teaching
Really?
at
Do
some
it.
point.
I mean, not do it, but think about it.
I'm currently doing a YouTube mastering YouTube class um, by Matt Diavella. You might know him. He's like
Yeah,
the
I do.
productivity.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you know his master YouTube thingy that he just launched. I signed up because, ironically, um, this is gonna sound like another secret, but everyone can hear this. The thing that, like, one thing I'm really insecure about is just talking, like speaking in English in front of an audience, which is ironically what I'm doing right now. But
Yeah, that's so weird.
right, I don't know why. I know my English is fine. I've been in Australia for a year. I mean, it's not as good as back then because I feel it's a little bit rusty because I haven't really had an English dialogue in so long. And so, I tend to, I never overthink. I told you I'm that impulsive person, but whenever I have to do a voiceover for a video, or even write a description for a post, that's something I really, really struggle with, because I write one sentence and then I overthink it. And I'm like, is this grammatically correct? Did I write it correctly? And then I think about it so long that the sentence looks weird. Like, have you ever thought about a word and said
Oh
that
yeah,
word over and over and over
yeah,
again, and then it just
yeah,
sounds completely weird? That's what's
absolutely.
happening to me with like every sentence I post on social media. And thank God, my graphic designer, she's bilingual. Her mom's from America, so I'm always like, can you check this text? Is this correct?
That's
I don't know
that's a good
why,
idea.
because it's not bad. I also realized that I have a German accent, and sometimes I probably fuck up grammar or stuff. But I shouldn't care about this, but I do, and I hope this YouTube class is gonna help me, because obviously, as you're experiencing right now, I have a lot to say, and I would like to
Yeah,
say it confidently in front of an audience without overthinking everything. So yeah.
I think you've done an incredible job. I honestly would never have thought you were insecure about that. Like generally, I wouldn't have. Like,
Fake it till you make it. I'm pretty good at that.
a lot of people have said that to me recently about different things, and I'm starting to think that's actually a real thing. I really am starting to be convinced. So a lot of people have said that to me recently, just
What?
about art as well, in terms of like confidence and being an
Fake it till you
artist.
make it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
are you, like, let's be honest right here. Are you confident doing this podcast, interviewing people?
I am now. Yes, now I am.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but in the
but I'm
beginning,
always slightly. Although I'm always slightly nervous before I do any interview, just because you don't know how it's going to go.
yeah, exactly.
You
And
don't, like, it could go hideously bad, and thank goodness, touch wood, I've never done an interview yet that has gone like hideously wrong. Like
and
they've all been pretty good.
I bet there's sometimes this little voice in the back of your head that's like, what qualifies you to talk to these people who
Oh,
ask you
100%, 100%. I'm literally a nobody. Why would people want to care about what I'm asking them,
See,
or for
and
me to
that
ask them
voice for
questions?
me, it's like, why should you do content in English? Shouldn't you stay, you know, shouldn't you just talk German instead? You'll have a nice German audience instead. And I'm like, no, I want to reach more people. I want to do this,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm still pursuing this. As I said, because it's challenging to me, because I'm kind of scared of it, but you just have to step out of your comfort zone and pursue this. So I'm gonna work on that.
100%.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna, you just watch. I mean, this is coming out in October. I will
Yes.
probably have a YouTube video out, and I will talk in that YouTube video, and I'll be super confident. And people listening to this podcast will be like, "Wow, he did it."
No, absolutely. And you should have said that, because there's a proven fact that when you say something publicly, you're less likely to do it. So you just
it
said
would
that.
be
So
it would be so shitty if this airs in October and there's just no YouTube video. And they're like,
hey, you know what? Life gets in the way of everything. Trust me. Like, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so who knows what's going to happen? Um, you just put time pressure on yourself. That's the worst thing you can do.
back about this speaking English
Yeah,
insecurity. I think it's a nice message for people listening, that might look up to me, or they're like, how did he do it? He teamed up with Jack Daniels. Wow. Well, I guess we're all insecure. I guess that's just always the thing. Most people don't admit it. I do. Yeah.
That's human nature. It is human
Yeah.
nature.
You just have
You know,
to conquer your fears, I guess.
the older I get, the more I'm like, you need to really challenge yourself. I really realize the importance of challenging yourself. Like, it's so important. It's so important. Just that one thing you didn't know you were going to do, just go and do it. I think it's so important. It's just so important. But anyway,
this is a good point to ask your listeners. What are you insecure about? I know you have something you're thinking of right now. Your mind went somewhere. That thing, what can you do about it? Just do one little step today. You don't have to change it today. You can take your time. You can take a year or 5 years. It doesn't matter. Just do something to conquer that fear or tackle that insecurity and yeah, follow your dream.
this is why I generally think you should be some kind of motivational speaker or a teacher. You know, even if it's just like a workshop here and there. Like seriously, even if it is like if the time ever comes and I do eventually do like workshops or something with the Flying Fruit Brand and turn it into more of a company, 100% I'm coming to you.
Dear listeners, should I be a motivational speaker? Let me know. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let him know. Seriously, he should. I think because I think so. The thing I've learned is that everybody actually has so much they want to say. It's just they're never really given the opportunity to say it. I think that's why I like talking to people. Like I could have just sent you some questions via email. Would have been a lot easier for me, a lot easier for you. Could have done it whenever you wanted to.
That would have been, yeah, but that's the problem. That would have been so lame because I would have had time to think about it and I would have given you like perfect answers for everything.
Yeah.
But I like to be caught off guard by your questions and be like,
yeah,
shit, I never thought about that. What am I going to say?
Oh, good. I hope it well, the one thing I do hope is that I hope that my questions do make you think about your own work and yourself. I hope they do. They might not, but I hope they do. I hope they do because
that's why I was so nervous this morning because I was like, I know he has those really deep questions and he knows me quite a bit by now, so he's gonna have super specific questions. I'm like, I have no way to prepare for this.
I kind of feel like should I give people like questions of balance, but I'm glad I don't. I think it's better that I don't.
Yeah,
I think
don't do that.
Yeah. No, I mean that I have a few people who have asked me, and I'm like, no, sorry, and they'll be like, oh, and I'm like, but yeah, like I wouldn't because I think it's, and I feel like really bad because I'm looking at like a list of questions, so I kind of know what I'm going to ask next, and sometimes I just throw in a random spontaneous question.
Well, you don't know. Maybe I'm looking at a list of answers right here.
Probably, and actually, I did that with an artist the other day. Like I when I was interviewing, they were like, oh, I've got a list of notes here that I wrote up just in case I didn't have anything to say, and I was like, okay, you're right ahead. Like that's a great idea because like you don't know what I'm going to ask, and like I hate it when you see like these interviews that are just very, very, very basic. Like like what's your name, what are your inspirations, and it's like knowing people's inspirations is cool, but I want to know why you decided to create art. I want to know what you think about art. I want to know, what makes you an artist, what part of you thinks that you're entitled to call yourself an artist, that kind of stuff. And also not just that, it's like, what is it really like to be an artist? Because I think there's such, like for me, there's such like a mysticism about the arts. It's all like, oh, you create work and like, oh, you need followers and oh, you need to make money somewhere along the line. And it's like, there is that, but there's also so much more that goes into it. It's not just you create a really nice image.
I just thought about that, like what's it like to be an artist, and I have just no way to describe that to people who are not artists. A few days ago, I tried to explain to my neighbor what I do, and I just rambled on about a few social media terms, and she had no idea because she doesn't use Instagram. She was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I was, well, it's important for the reach and the engagement because and the algorithm. And she was like, what are you saying?
Like, isn't that really interesting though? Like in a way, I very much envy people like that. I really do, because they have so much less care. They have so much they have to care less about, and I think that's great. I think that's so great. Just just because then, yeah, they're not kind of enslaved to the internet.
Yeah, I could do that maybe for half a day, and then I would be bored and set something on fire. I mean, create art. I didn't say that.
Candles. I'll set them on fire. That'll work.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's the thing. And I think even art, even something as physical as art, I think everything's not everything, but most things are shifting online to kind of a digital. We're living in kind of like a digital world, and I think it's like a shame. Like we're of similar ages. See how I did that? Similar ages, and it's like, do you
Well,
remember the internet? Do you remember before we had the internet? You remember?
yeah.
Now we're living. We're looking. We're in that age where we actually remember before the internet. It's crazy to me to think that they're going to be kids who have never known life without the internet. Like,
It's so insane. I mean, I remember having a Nokia phone and it had
yeah,
that little internet icon, and whenever you accidentally tapped it, you were just panicking, like, go back, go back. It's gonna be so
yeah,
expensive. Like 3
yeah.
seconds in
It
the
was
internet,
damn
I'm gonna
expensive.
be poor forever.
Yeah. Anyways, going off on stopping my tangent and going back to your work. So I think we're talking about wider art communities, and you want to create a community of misfits. As your audience grows or as your community grows, do you feel more of a pressure to create?
No, no, I don't think so. I mean, I probably should, especially since the Jack Daniels collaboration, a lot of uh, Jack Daniels related people followed me, and now I'm a lot more mindful of what I post, what I write. But all in all, I think I'm just always gonna stay the same guy, who just does what he wants to do, because you know I mean, it's stupid when you think about it for longer, because why would I change? Those people followed me for a reason, because I am that guy. And I
Yeah.
never I never had a fake internet persona. I was always just myself. And those people probably respect that and followed me for that, or quickly figured out that I'm not a fake persona and maybe left me because they didn't like the content. But those people who followed me and stayed followers, I think they will respect my choices, and they followed me for a reason, and they will keep following me for that.
And out of curiosity, just because something you said the word content, and I think the word content is an interesting one because I feel like it's a very generically vague term. Like, people are like, oh, I'm content creators. Like, do you think that it somehow damages like kind of the arts by using the word content when talking about particularly say art, for instance?
No, I think there's difference. I'm creating art, but what I'm posting is content. I have one artwork, but I might split that circle, that drawing. I might split it into several posts, maybe a photo post, maybe a reel, maybe a YouTube video. All of that, that I'm creating out of that drawing, that artwork, is content for me. The drawing itself, the original drawing, is art for me. The thing I'm creating on top of that is content. I think that's how
Okay,
I.
so that's meant. Oh, sorry, continue.
No, that I'm done.
Oh, oh, sorry. Someone was meant to ask you earlier, actually, that I completely forgot to ask you when you're talking about being a full-time artist. So obviously you're now a full-time artist,
I
which is,
am.
a great thing. But what is your experience with the business side of art being like?
Sorry, what?
What is your experience with the business side of art being like?
It's stressful, especially all the additional tasks. For some reason, I thought that when I'm a full time artist, I can just draw and post, but there's also emails to be answered, and engaging with other people in the comments, and so much stuff, like going to the copy shop, going to the post office to send things. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Especially for one person. Like, also, as I said, setting up a website, setting up an online store, what I'm working on right now. Um, it's really a lot, and it's not always nice, and it's really overwhelming. But most of those things, like the business side, it's just a one-time thing you have to do, and once it works, it works. So I just power through and enjoy drawing again.
So do you have any kind of like advice or kind of things you wish you knew before you took that leap into being a full-time artist?
I experience new things all the time, and I'm like, damn, I wish I knew that, or I wish someone had told me that in school. But that's why I am so transparent on social media, and why I have this community of misfits, so I can help people that are in the same position that I was in. I don't know, 10 years ago. Um, but I'm still figuring things out, and I don't
Of
think it
course.
will ever end. And I can always share new insights, like, hey guys, newsflash, don't do this and this. I know it's stupid when you think about it, but turns out it's not good to hold a burning candle that's almost completely burnt down. It's not good. I wish someone had
Like,
told me.
I mean, you learn the hard way. Okay, so do you actually sell your work at the minute? Obviously, I know you're going to set up an online shop, but do you actually sell prints and stuff?
Yes, I just started selling prints of my circles.
Oh,
They,
really?
yeah, they've been in the making for 1 year. I worked with the graphic designer and the people at the copy shop. That's also another thing I completely underestimated, because it took 1 whole year to find the right paper to print on, to find the right settings, to get them scanned correctly so that all the details show up, the size, everything. All those things we had to think about, have meetings, have test prints. Then they didn't look good, so we had to work on it all over again. But now they're done and they look amazing. And I have only sold them via DMs. So people texted me, also people I know, friends, family, friends of friends, stuff like that. And it's spreading really quickly. Like the word and my circles, once they're in someone's home, people will come to visit. I mean, obviously, right now it's a lot restricted thanks to COVID, but people will see those circles. They're like, "Who's that artist?" And I want to have some too, or parents of friends, siblings of friends. They're like, I want another one for my dad or my sister. So sales have been great. I've been overwhelmed by how big the support was from the circle pins. That's amazing. That's why I want to set up a shop as soon as possible, because I want international followers to be able to um, buy some circles as easily as possible. I want to make everything as easy as possible for them.
Well, please let me know when you do that, because I'd be super interested personally.
Cool, I'll let you
Um,
know.
but no, definitely let me know. I'd be super interested, and I'll share that with whoever looks at my
as,
website. Like, absolutely, like hundred
Especially
percent.
since
Like,
I'm working on new circles as we speak.
are you? That's a question I'm going to ask you later for sure.
Oh,
But I just want to ask you. I'm curious. Yeah, sorry. Continue.
the circles I'm working on more, because my secretly my goal is, but then I realized it's not a secret if I talk about it on a podcast. But my personal goal is to draw 1,000 circles. That's that's
Oh
my
wow.
goal for the circles, because I really like them. Right now we're at 49, I think, or 48. I think I'm currently working on the 50th circle. I'm not sure. We have a long way to go to 1,000, but I want to get there at some point, maybe in 10 years or something, and then I will. Then the series will be finished. Yeah, 1,000.
You have to have an exhibition of them all, just whole wall of them.
That would be so amazing. I'd love that.
I would love to see that, but then that's going to be like a long time away. But then by then you'll way be able to. You'll be doing it like full time, like in your mansion with the pool.
Hopefully.
So I think that's a great idea, and I think that's such a good goal to have. Like, so cool. And actually, so in terms of your circles, then would you commission? Like, would you do commission circles if somebody wanted, like, say, a certain phrase or a certain image?
Actually, here's another secret. I don't like commissions. I don't like doing them too much. Everyone can know. It's, I mean, right now it's not a secret anymore. It's just that people usually commission me to draw their kids or their cat or their dog or their horse. I don't know. And it gets quick fast. After you've drawn the fifth cat, you're like, I have to draw another cat for like 10 hours. Like it gets boring fast. And you always think about the things you could create in that time. So I guess I'd rather put my focus on things that I really want to do and that people still find interesting. Because with the commission, I'm drawing someone's cat. No one else is gonna want to buy that. It's a very specific drawing, you know. But for the circles, actually, I thought about since I'm using Inktober prompt words like I don't know, fish or swing. I thought that I'm gonna continue using those words, but I'm eventually gonna run out of words. So I thought about maybe then asking my community to submit words
Yeah.
that I should draw, and then I can credit them.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it's not really a commission because they only write one word.
You know, if you ask me, I'd give you like a super random word that you probably have no idea what the meaning is.
What would you give me right now if you had to give me
Like
one?
anodyne.
Okay, that's good. Well, I'd figure something out. I always figure something out. I'm like, what am I gonna draw for that word? But I think it would be a super cool community activity for my followers to submit words and I draw them.
I think it's absolutely. I think that's such a good idea. Such a good idea. I think I'm surprised you haven't done that already. To be honest.
Well, yeah, me too. Actually, I have no idea.
No, I'm quite surprised. But when I say commissions, I kind of meant like say your circle images. Would you not create custom commissions for people
Oh,
in
if
terms
you
of like
send me a circle, no, if you
yeah,
send me a picture and wanted like a portrait of yourself in a circle,
or if they send you a quote.
that would be cool too. Like that would be cool, but
Yes.
I would
So
not
you
work
get
if you sent me a picture. I would say no. Yeah, that I would do that. That sounds awesome. Working with a quote.
and also, would you ever consider collaborating with a poet?
I knew that question would come because you've asked this before. I
Have
listened
I?
to you.
I
Yeah,
can't
you
remember
did.
if I asked that before.
I can't tell you in which episode, but you did ask that before.
I can't tell you either, even though I've said it in an episode. Yeah, but like collaboration, because I always ask people about collaboration, because one thing I would love to do is if artists I've interviewed or artists I feature see each other and they collaborate on something. For me,
Oh
that would
yeah,
be like
that would be so
bonus.
cool. That would be
Like
so
that'd be
cool. I
cool.
mean, of course, the quote can't be too long. Sometimes I find really nice quotes, and I'm like, that's way too long. I'm not gonna write that on the circle because I'm gonna run out of space or it won't look good anymore. But I would totally work with a poet. That would be so cool.
Oh, and I'm pretty sure it was Indy Alexander I asked that to actually. I think it might have
Yeah,
been
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
because his
That's
work
the
is really
episode I re-listened today.
yeah today because his work's really beautiful and it has that interesting narrative kind of. I don't know if you've actually looked at his work, but it has that really interesting narrative layer, and it's like you could easily illustrate a poem with his work. So yeah, I think he was what I asked. Right, so let's talk about social media because that's the fun part of life, I guess.
Is
Um,
it?
so it depends on who you ask, really. So I know I've already asked you, but I'm going to ask you again just so that you can kind of make the answer more concise, I guess, and kind of have a more of a chance to kind of flesh it out if you want to. So the question is, you've kind of already answered it, but I'm going to ask you again just so it's cohesive in my mind. Is so what are your thoughts on social media and how has it impacted your practice?
Depends on the social media. I mean, there's YouTube, there's
Ah, a good answer
Facebook.
that.
So Facebook, I don't like it. I'm just right now. I'm just gonna roast social media. Um, I think I only have Facebook to stay in touch with people from Australia or like international people who don't have Instagram because for some reason we all have Facebook. I don't know why. But Instagram, I used to have Twitter, but writing those short texts, like, nah, it wasn't my thing. Instagram, it's cool because there are pictures, because it's mainly used by artists. I can follow CJ Henry. I can DM her. She can reply. That's amazing. Still blows my mind. I can just casually text Jack Daniels. I really, really like that about Instagram, that it makes everything and everyone so accessible.
Yeah, And I think actually that's a really good consideration in terms of different social medias are used for very different things, and
Yeah,
it's easy to forget that you know, and I have all my Twitter and Facebook just scheduled for when I post on Instagram, so I don't even look at them really. But it's hard to forget that the reach and the kind of audience for each social media is very different.
it
You
is.
know, particularly now when I say like TikTok, for instance, we have got like TikTok, and it's like the audience for TikTok is completely different for the audience for Facebook.
Fun fact: I do have a TikTok account, but I think I've posted one thing, a candle wax video. And I will never looked at it again because I feel so old using it. I just opened it. I was like, how do the comments work? How do I upload something? How do I edit this? I know nothing. And I know I could figure it out if I wanted to. It's just that I don't really want to because I'm like, I no, I can't be bothered. You have
Just
Instagram
another
Reel.
thing to do.
Hmm?
It's like another thing to do.
Yeah. Like
I
like
think you know that's that's really interesting because I was talking to I think it was Alex Sarkowitz, and he was saying to me about how like was it Alex Sarkowitz? No, I think it was Calvin. Like it was an artist, one of the artists I've interviewed, and they said, "Oh, my audience is not the audience on Instagram. I don't post work for the audience for Instagram. I just post my work on Instagram." And I thought that was actually a really interesting consideration because you know, particularly Instagram, like a lot of artists rely on Instagram, but I kind of wonder if they consider their audience and actually is it audience even if is the you know are the people they're trying to reach even the audience target audience of Instagram itself? 'Cause I think the younger generation who are buying £100 shoes, they're not going to want to spend £500 on art. They're not necessarily going to want to spend a lot of money on something like that because they're paying off their credit card bills and that's just a stereotype, but their credit card bills and like they're paying for other things that they deem more you know interesting or worthwhile pursuing. And I kind of it's something I'm thinking about a lot lately about social media and kind of audiences and just kind of the idea of I guess when it comes back to community because it's like you can have 100 people following you that you interact with and that could be all you need. As you said earlier, you were like, "Oh, I don't need more followers," and I 100% agree with that because it's like you just need that core community that like what you do. As somebody once said, you only need 100 people to give you £1,000, and you'll have enough money to live off for the rest of your life.
mm,
Every year, if you have, if you had 100 people give you £1,000 every year, you'd be pretty set.
yeah, that's very
That's
true.
all that's all you need, and it's like we just think we need more, but we actually don't. I think that's kind of interesting. So, yeah, it's something to think about, I guess, the whole idea of audience. And how often do you think about audience in terms of your work? Like, do you kind of create with the viewer in mind?
Of course, especially with the circles, uh, since people reached out to me and told me that they make them feel better. I told you I don't need more followers, but I would like to reach more people that maybe need that kind of support. So
Yeah.
I totally create for other people. Like I think the Circle series, it's fun for me, but it's also for others to enjoy because I could also do big, realistic cans all the time, but I would, it that Jack Daniels can. It took me 130 hours, so I could
Wow.
maybe do 2 posts a month, and that's it. And that would suck for followers who love to see my art. The circles, I could pretty much pull off daily. No, I could do daily posts if I only did the circles and no side projects. I could do that one circle a day. I did that during Inktober. People really liked it. When Inktober ended, they were like, I got so many messages saying like, "Hey, I missed your circles. I loved waking up and just looking at my phone and looking at the new circle and reading that quote, and that's always so nice to read." So yeah, the circles became more of a community thing.
Have you ever put them all together in like a one page?
Uh, you mean the physical copies, the originals?
Yeah.
No, they're in a book.
Oh, okay. And actually, would you ever produce an art book?
Hmm? What?
Would you ever produce like an art book of the Circle series?
I started as a quick Inktober thing, and I still had that sketchbook lying around. It doesn't even start with the circles. There are still random drawings in the first few pages, and sketches in books, they're like awful for scanning. So I thought about just drawing on regular paper. It would be cool because then I could also sell the originals. But that way, it's also cool because I have them all together in a book.
Yeah.
And the book, it looks terrible because I take it with me everywhere. It looks so, it looks used.
That's great. That's perfect.
Right? Isn't
That's
it?
even better. That's even better. That's the beauty of it because it's been loved.
Yeah.
Rather than, it'd be like super perfect and super neat and super considered, and it's all like pristine, and you've got like sleeves on every page to preserve the image. It's like it's kind of rough and it's perfect. It's a reflection of you and how you work and how you create, and I think that's a great idea. I think
it always makes me think about what my teacher once said, because she gave us sketchbooks and we had to fill that sketchbook in a year, back in school. And she was like, if you guys don't spill coffee in it, it's not a good sketchbook, and you won't get a good grade, because I want to see it torn apart and coffee inside of it, and because the sketchbook has to be
wear and tear.
So I love that too.
So one thing about social media and being an artist is kind of the idea of validation. You have internal validation and external validation. And I'm kind of curious, like, how as an artist do you motivate yourself to keep creating work? And what is your opinion on external validation also? Like, how do you balance the two?
Wait, let me do the thinking phase. That's the first question that actually caught me off guard. Might have to think about that for a second.
That's fine, go ahead.
Here's the thing. I don't think I can really, at this point, I don't really can. No, I can't separate external and internal validation. You're saying it as if it were two things, but I don't think. I think they blend together, because it starts with internal validation, because you don't really have external validation at that point. You just start drawing for yourself, but then people contact you and tell you they like the art and they like daily uploads, and you're like, well, that's cool, I like that too. And so I do what I want, of course, but it's also great that others want that. I can't really tell you if that's internal validation or external. I can't. This question is really tough.
That's fine. So I guess that probably an easier way to ask, or like a kind of workaround question, I guess, would be like, how do you stay motivated to keep creating work, even when you don't feel like it? And I know you've already said earlier that you're very good with the willpower, but like what keeps you coming back to it?
Well, again, both.
Okay.
I do, because as you said, waking up in the morning and just wanting to create, that's what keeps me going. But on some days that might not be enough, and then I'm like, well, I can't quit now, because there are people out there who rely on me and who I can make feel better just by sitting down and drawing. So it's both.
See, that's really interesting, because I think the fact that you had that knowledge that people are aware of what you're doing and that it matters, like, I kind of wonder if if that puts any pressure on you. And I know you said earlier that you don't feel the pressure, but I kind of feel like maybe you would feel some kind of pressure, because you know that if you stopped, people would miss you.
Maybe I never thought about this. I think honest answer, I think I need pressure to work. I need a certain amount of pressure, and I feel like that's the good amount of pressure. Like, I would be missed if I stopped. Of course, it sucks, because maybe some people in that position wouldn't feel free to take a break, because they're like, man, I really need a break, but people rely on me right here. But I just took a 6-month break, basically. It wasn't really a break. I worked with Jack Daniels, but I didn't post anything. And I texted a few people and was like, well, I'm working on a secret project with
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And they
which is
understood
great.
and they stayed here. And now I texted them again, like, hey, I'm back. Uh, that's another thing that really surprised me, that people were still here to see my art. They didn't say, well, he's been gone for 6 months. We just, he's probably dead. We haven't heard from him. But they stayed here. They stayed here and they came back. They still, well, they comment again. They like again, like they did before 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And so it is something that keeps me coming back, that I know that our people, friends, my little community of misfits, they're they're there waiting for me, but I can always take a break and they respect that. I know that. So there is pressure, but yeah, I know that they also respect my choices and that I can do whatever.
See, I think that's great though. I think you're in a very lucky position because I think
Right?
a lot
Yeah.
of people, I think, and what I was meant to say to you earlier, I think it's what I probably didn't articulate it very well, but I think you're in an exciting phase of your artistic career. That's what I think. You're in a very exciting phase, and you're actually very similar to another artist I interviewed. Actually, I might link you both up because you might get along quite well. But you're both like, you're both young. You're both creating work that is, it's kind of just on the border of quote unquote mainstream success. It's just like you're not quite there yet, but you're almost there. And I can imagine that whatever you do from here is going to be so not much better, but you'll get a lot of opportunity, and you're just honest, and I like that. I respect that. I highly respect anybody who's honest, and I think your intentions are good, and I like that. You're not creating because you want to be rich and famous, and you want people to see what you're doing, and you want people to know about you.
No,
You're creating for a
and luckily I attracted the right people to follow me because they're so supportive. They write the nicest messages and sweet comments. Yeah, so like a few artists I know, they get really mean comments like, oh, you're doing that and that, you're not a real artist, or a lot of hate comments. I haven't gotten anything like that. I've only experienced support so far, and I'm so lucky to have that, and such a good engagement, so many comments on every post.
I think also the interesting thing about you is that I feel like even if you did get a hate comment, it wouldn't phase you.
No,
I think because the support you have is so strong, like that what's that hate comment? It's just somebody not having a good day. And I think that's what's really cool. And I like that. And I like your personality, and I like your, I don't know. Yeah, I think there's only good things ahead for you as far as I'm concerned.
thank you.
So I'm really excited to see what happens for you next. And we haven't ended the interview yet, even though it sounds like an ending, but it's not. But I just wanted to let you know at some point in this interview that I'm actually really excited to see where you go. Because I think it's going to be really fun.
See, and I think a lot of people think that, and that's why they follow me, just to see where it leads. And I don't know where
I,
it
I,
goes. That's a good
I guess
thing.
that's why we follow anybody to see where they go.
Like, take a step back and take that sentence out of context. It sounds like you're a weird stalker. I guess that's why we follow anybody, just to see where they go. That sounded
That's,
so
that's so
weird.
funny. That's so funny. But it's so true though. But you're right though. It sounds weird. But actually, this is a slight side tangent. But I've always been intrigued by the word follow. It's such an intriguing word to use
It
because
is.
it's not. It's just such a. It's an odd choice of word.
It is,
I,
isn't
I-
it?
and it's never sat right with me because if you say, "Oh, my followers," it's like if somebody was to follow you in real life, that wouldn't be a good thing. That's not a positive connotation.
No. Sounds
So it's
like
weird that we're like, yeah,
sounds
it's
like
weird.
you're Jesus and you have your weird cult of
Yeah,
followers,
you're part.
right?
I
Like,
mean, I I mean, artists and cult leaders. Is there a difference at this point? Probably not.
hold on.
Probably not. I mean, one could argue with the ego of the artist. Yeah, one could argue that there's no difference. But anyway, getting back to you and your work. So let me have a look at what was my next question. Okay, so
Oh.
that's it. That's it. So talking about audience particularly, and I think you're the perfect person to talk about audience with, because it's quite nice because you actually have like a bearing on your audience, and you have a bearing on who kind of follows you, and they obviously like I want to say returning clients, and that sounded very commercial, but like your returning followers, that sounds even worse. But
You can do this. I believe you.
Your what can I call them? Your what is the right terminology for that? Like the people who interact with you the most, your recurring interaction. That sounds terrible,
My
but yeah, recurring
loyal
interaction.
followers.
Okay, yeah, your
My
loyal
misfits.
So yeah, okay. So going back to talking about audience and like kind of loyal followers, and the idea of it's cool because you have a good bearing on who's following you and who's going to interact with the work, and you probably have a handful of people will probably comment and probably like it and probably have a say in your work. So how do you separate the creating of the work from engaging with your audience? Because you're to me, you're a very outgoing person. Like the way you engage with me, if you engage like that with everybody, like how do you have the time to create art? Like how do you balance the creating of art with the keeping people engaged and talking to everybody?
The secret is setting time limits. I would recommend to anyone not to have your phone next to your bed when you wake up, because you will just mindlessly scroll. I did that too. I did that just this morning. So, yeah, I'm not living by my own words, but we all know we shouldn't. And then I have like 3 times a day, 10 to 20 minutes of social media time, and I try to keep that because I want to be productive too. There's no use in talking to people all day long and engaging with followers when I can't post anything. That's the thing why they followed me. So creating stuff will always be a priority.
Of course, I'm just super curious because obviously the more time you are on social media, the less time you're actually creating. And I think that balance is quite tricky.
I think we all assume that it takes a lot of time to engage with people, but actually in the morning, like 25 minutes on social media, that's enough to communicate with everyone. And usually all my messages and comments have been answered, and I'm like, wow, I'm done in only 25 minutes because I did focused social media work.
Yeah,
in quotes. Yeah, I think that's the trick, just time limit.
Okay, so then one thing that is obviously the great thing about social media is you can get feedback on your work. But what kind of feedback do you prefer to have? And what feedback do you prefer to give to the artists?
Honest feedback. Just, neither good nor bad, just honest feedback. Or just maybe a short, hey, awesome work, I like that. Sometimes that's all it takes. Like, you don't always have to write a long comment about someone's work. You can't do that, especially when someone uploads on a daily basis. That's just insane. Comments are obviously good for the algorithm, and comments boost the algorithm. So a short comment is always better than no comment at all, because you just overthink it and want to write something long. It doesn't have to be that. Sometimes if you want to support an artist but don't have much to say, you can just text nice work. That's all it takes sometimes.
Do you think that the kind of reward driven system of likes and I guess like emoji comments, do you think that's changed the way people view art, in terms of like, rather than look at the image and take time to consider it and think about what they actually like about it, they'll just click the heart button and be like, hey, cool, I like it?
Wait, why would emoji comments? I'm confused.
I love that question. I love the fact that was the only bit you picked up from. That's great. So I said, what did I say? Because that actually wasn't a comment. That actually wasn't a question I actually added. I just said that spontaneously.
I noticed it was all over the place.
Oh, that's great. So actually, we'll skip that question. That's perfect. We'll skip that. So this is a question. This is an exclusive question just for you. I haven't actually asked anybody this yet. And actually, I was thinking about this today. So, what do you think social media is going to be like beyond Instagram when Instagram fades in popularity?
You know what comes next after Instagram?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I hope it's something good, but I'm just afraid it's gonna be another Vine or TikTok clone. Because what I noticed is, you probably know that, our generation, we watched a lot of YouTube videos, and they were usually 10 minutes long at least or longer, and we watched that. But right now, the attention span seems to be going back. We have this really, really short content on Instagram, 1 minute, or the Instagram, no, on TikTok and on Instagram, the Reels, that are 30 seconds long or 15 seconds long. And I don't think it's good for attention span. I sound like such a dad or even grandpa, like, don't
No, I
look at
agree. I
that.
completely agree.
It's not good for your attention span, but I really think it's not. But I feel like with social media, we are headed in that direction, that we need shorter content and maybe exaggerated content too.
Yeah.
Oversaturated content, if you want to call it that. And I don't like that. I don't like all those quick videos. Maybe that's why I didn't get into TikTok or Reels. Really, I can see why people like them. I just prefer staring at a picture for a long time or watching a YouTube video that's 20 minutes long.
Yeah, well, that's a really good answer, and it kind of makes me wonder, like, do you create work knowing it's going to be like? Let me rephrase that question. Does knowing that your work is going to be viewed online change the way you create it?
Not necessarily. I mean, I still create it for myself. I sit down, I draw a circle, and then I just upload it. I don't really sit down to upload it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
but let's
still
say if, for instance, if you're creating an image, have you ever thought in the middle of creating an image, oh, I wonder what this will look like on Instagram, or oh, I should have recorded that to make a reel?
no, no, I don't think I had that much.
No, that's
And
cool. I'm just
a
curious.
good example is the Jack Daniels can, because that was 70 by 50. So it's a large piece. And I only realized later that Instagram will crop this because it prefers, square images.
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
well, this is not a square, but I didn't think about that. So my again, my friend and helper, the graphic designer, she just edited it to look like a square, and then it was a perfect post. But I never think of those things before I notice it's a problem.
Yeah, because I'm super curious of like the impact upon the way artists create work now, because there's one thing, of creating work and then posting on social media, but now we're in the throes of social media. It's like your work's going to go online. Does that change the fact that the way you create it? Like, do you think about Instagrammable aesthetics? Do you think about, oh, I need to make a reel of this? How am I going to video this? What's I created? Like I wonder if people think about that. I'm super curious, and this is not necessarily a question. I guess this is kind of more of a monologue that I'm thinking about. But I'm just kind of curious about how that's really affected the arts and the way that we create work.
See, but
Because obviously,
that's the same thing as creating art or content. That's what I said earlier. I'm still
yeah,
creating art,
yeah,
and then once I created the art, I'm like, okay, what content can I make out of that?
that's a very good distinction. That's a very good distinction, and I'm going to be
I
thinking about that
get
for a
that
long
a lot of
time.
people are just creating content and maybe not even art, or just creating art for content's sake. But I don't do that. I create art, and then I'm like, okay, what am I actually going to do with that on social media?
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting distinction. And now you said that, I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time because I feel like, and actually, this is a question I was going to ask you later, but I'll ask you now. Actually, I think that's what, like, is there a difference between people who create art and people who make art?
No, I don't think so. Why? What do you think? What would the distinction be?
Because I'd be like, because people who make art to make art, but people who create art because they have the need to create.
But isn't it also the same thing? I mean, I get your distinction, but
Yeah, it is the same thing ultimately. But I think I get okay. Let me ask that question in a different way: Is can anybody be an artist?
oh yeah, totally.
That was perfect. Okay, that's perfect. That's that question. No, that's perfect. Okay, that's cool. Because I'm curious about that question, just because. And okay, so the funny thing about all these questions is that the way, and
No,
nobody's
wait,
asked
wait.
me this, so I'm just gonna.
Can I elaborate on that? I think
Yeah,
everyone
sure.
can
Go.
be an artist as long as art is fun. Like, is it fun to you? Is it fun to just draw? Then yes, you can totally become an artist. If you notice that it's just another task on your to-do list, then probably not. Then you shouldn't force yourself. But if you realize there's really like passion behind it and a dream, and you want to do that, then yes, you can totally be an artist.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. I like that actually. I'm glad you elaborated on that actually. That's quite cool. That's actually really cool. And actually, that's true. And that's what I get from your work is like the fun of it and the play of it, and just kind of doing stuff and not being too worried if it's perfect or being too worried if people are going to like it or if it's commercial. You're just doing it because you enjoy it. And all the connotations and the kind of reputation it gets after is after the fact. It's not you don't have that in mind when you create it. You just create it and you're like, hey, you know what? I'll put it online. Whether there's
Exactly.
people that
Yeah.
like it or not is not the point. The point is that you create it and you're having fun doing it. And I think that's a very commendable, because I think we're at a point where art has become commodified. You know, like being an artist, like if you were to start art now, I don't know if now is really the right term to use, but I think in the last 10 years, say, okay, this is quite a generic stereotyping, I guess, but like because even less than years, I guess you started out in the last 10 years, but I think the fusing of the rising of social media has really changed the way people create art. You what? Forget it. This is gonna go back into tangents of other things. It doesn't matter. We'll move on. We'll move on we'll move on because I'll just get into a whole ramble about social media and how much it's the devil, and it's not a good idea. Nobody
I
needs to hear
feel
that.
like you're getting tired.
I'm always tired, trust me. Okay, so do you think a piece of art is better if it's more personal to the artist? And how has your own life impacted your work?
Personal to the artist.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think so. I mean, I would never create something that maybe that's why I don't like commissions, because I feel like it's less what I want to do. And I think art, you express yourself. So it's always better if it's what you really want to do.
that's perfect. Actually, there's only a few more questions left. There's not that many questions left, actually. That's not that many questions, unfortunately.
Oh,
So, I mean, literally, this could go on for another 5 hours if I'm not concerned. That's super cool. Um, honestly, you're so awesome to talk to, and I love talking to people like you because you're just interesting and your art's great and you're just interesting. It's cool. It's like the perfect kind of person I love to talk to. So it's cool.
leave that
Um,
in. I need those compliments.
what I'll do is I'll cut that bit out just for you and I'll send it to you every day, just as a
Oh
small little.
yeah, yeah. That's gonna be my alarm clock.
Nobody wants to hear my voice as their alarm clock. Trust me. I don't want to hear my own voice half the time, and I have to listen to it 3 times before I even get anybody else hears it. So,
Well,
um,
I'm probably gonna cringe when I listen to my own voice here. So I mean, I guess that's normal.
but to be fair though, I've gotten over it now. I think because I've heard my own voice so much, I'm like, it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. It doesn't bother me anymore. So this goes back to something I said to you right at the beginning, which you probably forgot about, which I hope you did. So I have a question for you from another artist.
I didn't forget.
So, damn it. Okay. So Katie Harold asked a question. She is actually similar to you. She's a monochromatic pencil artist.
Oh my
Um,
god,
and
I'm so excited.
and her question is, what are your non-artistic influences and inspirations?
That's a good question. First of all, non-artistic influences. I guess it's an easy question for me because, as I said also in the beginning, I love to go outside in nature, and I am that guy in your friend group who's like, look at this awesome patch of dirt. Can you see like all these shades of brown? And they're like, all right, I guess. But I love looking at things, just taking a step back, just being mindful, I guess. This is also a good exercise for anyone listening right now. Just take a step back and really try to look at like 3 objects around you. There are some things, and then take a step back and like, wow, there's this cool water bottle, or there's a chair, and it looks really, really cool. This is art too. Someone designed this, and you can really look at it for a long time from another point of view. The same with all your senses. Like, what do you hear right now? What do you smell? Smell is one of those senses we don't use it at all. We don't notice it until something. No, we don't. Smell is another one of those senses. We don't notice it unless something smells really bad or really, really good. But right now, if you just smell, what do you smell? Because there is a smell. Or what do you hear? What do you see? And this mindfulness practice, it's really inspiring. Like I can look at clouds for hours, or at a chair, or even at an interesting wall. I'm that guy. I get inspiration from everything.
So that answer is perfect, because, and I'll send you a link to her work later, and her work is very much about nature and looking and observing and creating really deep. Actually, her work is quite similar to yours, I guess. I said to you earlier, there's no one to reference to, but that's quite an interesting reference. In terms of like, it's all about detail. It's about the wild. And it's about what you discover on your walks. That's really great. That worked out so well.
See, perfect. I hope she loves my answer too.
I hope so. She listens to the interviews as well, so she will hear your answer as well, which is perfect.
Awesome.
So do you have a question for the next person I ask?
I had one. Let me just think about it again. Because that one I lost somewhere along the way. It's been a wild ride.
It certainly has.
Oh yeah, I guess what's the weirdest art medium that you have ever used? Like for me, it's burning candles, but I'd be interested if the next artist, whoever it is, has ever used something totally unconventional and untraditional.
But I know who I'm going to interview, which is fun. Well, at least I think I'm going to interview, because it might not happen. And I think that's it. I don't know whether that question will work well though, because I don't know if they do different mediums. They might just do one. But we'll go from there. So the next question, which is the question I ask everybody, and you've heard me ask people, and it throws them off a bit. So forewarning there. So what makes a good image? And what was the last image or piece of media you saw that left an impression on you?
What makes a good image? I guess if you just put some personality in it and passion, it will look good. If you're just someone who copies something, it will probably not look good. Like maybe it will look like the reference image because you copied it, but I think you just have to put a little bit of yourself in your art, and then it will automatically look good no matter what you're portraying. And the last thing that left an impression on me, I don't know, that water bottle I talked about that I was looking at earlier. Look at those shades of blue. Beautiful, right? And the reflections. Ever since I drew that big hero can, the Jack Daniels can, with all the little droplets,
yeah,
it's been raining a lot. And whenever I look at my window and see those, I'm like, I want to draw these, but at the same time, I don't want to do that again. So, but I don't want to say that my own drawing is the last thing that has left an impression on me.
No, you absolutely. That's a great thing. That's a great thing to say.
Well,
that's a great thing to say.
Those drops have haunted me in dreams. Let me just say that. Because I've spent so much time on that. I also told Jack Daniels it's fine. They can listen to this. Those drops, they took so much time, and then I went to bed right after drawing, and I dreamt of those drops the whole night. Actually, several nights. I think 3 nights in a row I dreamt of those. So they have had a big impression on me, and I didn't.
That's crazy though. That's crazy though. But that's cool though. That just shows the power of your own work to yourself. That's crazy. But that's a good thing.
Thank you.
So no, that's kind of cool actually. I think personally, I think that's a really cool answer. I think that's great that your own work leaves such a good impression on you because you're the one creating it. And I think it's so easy just to kind of disregard what we do when we create.
yeah, and I mean it might sound cocky to some, but just keep in mind that I spent 130 hours on this drawing,
Yeah.
drawing little droplets, and it would be weird because I drew it, I drew that all day long. It would be weird if it didn't have an impression on me and my dreams, but it did.
Maybe your dreams is a bit strange, but yeah. Okay.
I have, I have a lot of. Oh, that's a good question for the next artist. Do you ever dream of your artwork? Because whatever I draw in the daytime, it will sometimes haunt me at night.
So how do you want to phrase that question?
I have no idea. That's your job, not mine.
I don't know what's funnier, the fact you said that or the fact that it's actually so true. So have you... And actually, you know what? The funny thing about that, I'll send you this guy's work in a minute. Not in a minute. Once we're finished. In a few minutes, once we're finished. And actually, that's a really good question to ask him. And when I send you his work, you'll know why.
I mean,
Have you
I
ever
told you
had...
I'll be honest and blunt. Now you know why.
That's great. I love that. That's so cool. I'm going to totally keep that in. That's amazing. Have you ever had a dream about your work, or a dream that or a dream that inspires your work? Is that okay?
What?
So the question will be.
Your work?
So the question, no. So the question will be from you: have you ever had a dream about your work, or a dream that inspires a piece of work? Do you want to ask that? Is that okay?
Well, yeah. I guess my question would have been: have you ever been haunted by your drawings in your dreams? But that might be a bit extreme.
So they don't. They're a photographer. They don't create art. So they create art, but they're a photographer. So have you ever had have you ever been haunted by your work? The guy hasn't that. Actually, you know what? Actually, wait. Have you ever been haunted by your work? I'm just going to type that and I'll figure out a better way to say it.
Yeah.
No, because they're going to think of it a different way, though. They're not going to think of it dream. They're going to think of like trauma. By your work.
That's all right.
I'm gonna reword that somehow. Okay. I'll let you know how I reword that.
Have you ever worked so much on a piece of art that you've dreamt about it? I don't know.
Because their work is very dreamlike, and it sits in that kind of really interesting space between art and photography.
Perfect. Maybe they dreamt about it afterwards or before.
Yeah. So dreaming about your work. I'm gonna ask them. Okay, that's cool. I'll figure out a way to rewrite that, but I'll definitely ask them that. I think that'd be a great idea. And actually, I think that's going to give me a really good idea. It's going to give me a good segue to talking about certain stuff actually during about work. Okay, that's actually that's like seriously. That's actually I'm going to start off my interview notes with that question at the top, so I can kind of plan out what else I'm going to ask them around kind of that idea. So that's actually really helpful for me.
You're welcome. I'm still a bit sorry about the stairs earlier.
No, it's fine. Honestly, don't worry about it. So, the last couple of questions.
Will that be the opening line of this podcast? I don't know. That's your job, not mine.
I mean, of course. Right. Okay. So the next question is: do you have any themes that you would like to explore, but you're not certain about the reception you'll get?
Never and always.
That's an intriguing answer.
I mean, as you said, my circles, they explore a lot of themes, and I've only just started to delve into mental health and stuff, but the reception has always been great. So I'm not really worried, and I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna explore next, but I'm just gonna go with the flow, do whatever.
Okay, and do you believe in artistic freedom? Do you think that you're free to create whatever you want?
Yeah, 100%. I don't need to elaborate on that.
Yeah, but what about like say social media guidelines and people being like trigger warnings and kind of people might they might not like a certain subject or something. Like, do you think that like in some ways you have to conform to kind of other gatekeepers?
Well, it's what I don't like about Instagram is that there are really hard limits on just posting drawings of nude models or whatever.
Yeah.
That's just artistically fine. I'm not talking about porn, just having
Yeah,
a
like
nude model.
assistant nudes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Having a nude model, drawing them. Instagram will flag that and delete that or cancel your reach and remember that forever. I don't like that because it's art. And bodies are also just art. I don't know why. Again, not talking about porn or anything, just I don't get why Instagram is so harsh about that. I mean, I get it to an extent, but sketches really. So, but yeah, I'm not. I was never about to do anything like nude drawings or anything. So I'm not about to explore that. So I'm fine with Instagram's restrictions.
But
Also,
what
no
about
porn
say?
or anything.
Yeah, but I say. But what about like say? Which is kind of this is a whole completely different tangent. I'm not going to go down it because this is we'll be here for a while. But like the idea of violence and the idea of like people who may be creating images about war, or they might be creating images about mental health, or they might be creating images of about say pregnancy or something, where it's not a taboo subject per se, but the way they're doing it could be controversial slash shocking slash people might not like it. Do you think that like how do you think that people? I mean, I don't know if it's really a question, I guess, but it's like, how do you think people can circumvent social media guidelines and kind of like, do you think, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you think that knowing that there may be somebody stopping them from publishing this work should stop them from creating the work? Do you think they should still create it anyway?
Yeah, of course. I know one artist that posted a lot of nude drawings. I totally support him in my story because he should still be creating, and other artists and followers should speak up to Instagram that he's just doing good work. It's a team effort. We have to
Oh, yeah.
stick together. And also, there is a circle about war.
Okay, that's cool. That's great, and that's what I like about your work is that because you haven't defined yourself, you could go in any direction, and that
Exactly.
excites me because it means that you could work with. I mean, you don't necessarily have to, but you could work with so many different people, and it could fit into so many different places, and it could be like it could be a piece about an award, or it could be a campaign, or it could be. I tell you what would be so great if you sold patches. Like you get like pins or patches that
Mhm.
people sew into bags and stuff like that, or badges. That'd be so cool. Like something that brings your art into the world. That'd be so cool. Like your work on badges would be perfect. I would
We're,
totally buy them.
we're actually working on stickers right now.
Tell
We're
me when they drop so I know to buy some so I can stick them everywhere.
all right,
Um,
I will.
no, literally, I'll buy one. I'll stick it on the back of my phone case because I would totally want that. Absolutely, like I literally want that. So that's
All
cool.
right, I will remember
Um,
that.
yeah, because like I think that's really interesting. I think that's the great thing about your work and what excites me about your work is that it has. And I feel like I said this to everybody, but maybe it's just the way I see art. It's like your work has so much potential to be in so many different places, and I think that's what really fascinates me about it. It's like it can be you can literally create like particularly your circles. You can literally create a circle about anything you want because you've set
Exactly.
yourself
That's
up that
what
way.
fascinates me too. That's what keeps the series going. That's why I can confidently say I want to get to 1,000 circles because I
Like
will
you could
never run out of things to explore.
like you could find a really cool clothing brand you like, or just any brand, or just not even a brand, just any person or any kind of product. It's just like there's just so much opportunity for you. You've set up. The great thing is, and I think you need to realize, is that you've set up this up for yourself, and I think you should be very proud of
Thank
yourself,
you. I am.
because you've done all the hard work to get here. I'm glad to hear that you actually are, though. But yeah, I
I
just want you to know
am.
that I think you should be proud of yourself.
I told you I am so happy to be where I am right now, and I'm also so proud. I mean, of the whole Circle series, of this insane support that I'm getting from my community, of this amazing realistic can that I've just drawn. It's all so surreal, and I'm so proud and so happy to be doing this every day and to be able to follow my dream.
So that brings us to the final question, which is the infamous double barrel question, which is what are you currently working on, and where can people find more about you and your work?
I am currently working on uh, more candle wax art
Oh,
to
really?
get my second account back to life. Yeah, I've actually three more artworks planned as of now. What I want to do is weekly uploads, like one candle wax piece a week, and also more circles, which will start next week, hopefully. People can find me on Instagram, of course, hopefully soon on YouTube. Like, yeah, it's gonna be October when this drops, so you can probably find me on YouTube if everything went well. On Instagram, of course.
And what is your Instagram handle?
At Ryan Dean Haas.
You know what? Ryan's absolutely perfect. It's absolutely perfect. You know what? Honestly, I know you need to leave, so I apologize, but thank you so much for doing this. Like, I seriously appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
That concludes the second and final part of my interview with Ryan Dean Haas. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions or comments about it, please send me an email at theflyingfruitbowl@gmail.com or via social media sites such as Instagram. The Flying Fruit Bowl audio interviews can be found on a variety of sites such as Apple Music, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you would like to support the platform, please consider subscribing, sharing, rating, or reviewing on any of those platforms. Also, don't forget to check out theflyingfruitbowl.co.uk for daily art inspiration. And if you're a creative, please get in touch for a chance to be featured or interviewed. We always accept submissions on our website. Once again, thank you very much for listening. And until next time, folks, please stay safe.